It's a Saturday afternoon, the 30th of November, 2013, in Santa Clarita, California. Paul Walker is laughing in a car park, surrounded by boxes of toys collected for typhoon victims on the other side of the world. He's 40, on a break from filming, having one of the best days he's had in months. When his friend pulls up in a red Porsche, Paul turns to someone and says, "I'll be right back in 5 minutes." He climbs into the passenger seat. Minutes from now, the man who spent his career pretending to race cars will be dead, and he isn't even the one driving. To understand the loss, you have to understand the man. Paul Walker was never supposed to be a movie star, and he never really acted like one. He was a blonde, blue-eyed kid from the San Fernando Valley who would rather be in the ocean than on a red carpet. He loved surfing, marine biology, and taking engines apart in his garage. In 2001, a film called The Fast and the Furious turned him into a global name overnight. He played Brian, a cop who falls for the outlaw world of street racing and the misfit family inside it. That one word, family, became the heart of the whole franchise. And off-screen, Paul lived it. The people he worked with describe a man with no ego, who learned every crew member's name and gave away money without telling anyone. He hated the fame far more than he loved it. Millions adored him because he felt like someone they already knew. The guy next door who happened to be a movie star. Most people didn't realize the truth. For Paul, the cars were never just a movie prop. He was a genuine gearhead, the kind who could rebuild a motor and talk shop with any mechanic in the pit lane. He owned dozens of cars and kept them like treasures. On weekends, he skipped the premieres. He went to racetracks instead, strapping into a car to chase lap times for the pure joy of it. That love is how he met Roger Rodas. Roger was his financial advisor, but he was also a gifted racing driver and one of Paul's closest friends. Together, they ran a performance car shop and a racing team. When Paul wanted to feel free, that is where he went, to the smell of fuel and hot rubber and the people who spoke his language. Speed was not a stunt to him. It was where he felt most alive. But there was another side to Paul, one that had nothing to do with cars at all. In 2010, a massive earthquake flattened Haiti. While most celebrities sent a check, Paul Walker got on a plane. He flew into the disaster zone with a team of first responders and worked on the ground, handing out aid to people who had lost everything. The experience changed him. He founded a charity called Reach Out Worldwide, built to rush skilled volunteers into places just hit by catastrophe. Over the next 3 years, he showed up after earthquakes and tornadoes, with no cameras and no press release. In November 2013, a monster storm called Typhoon Haiyan tore through the Philippines and killed thousands. Paul's charity sprang into action again, and on the 30th of November, they held a fundraiser and toy drive in Santa Clarita to help the survivors. That is why Paul was there that afternoon. Not at a party, not on a film set. At a charity event, collecting toys for kids who had lost everything. By mid-afternoon, the event was winding down, and Paul was in a great mood. Witnesses say he was relaxed, joking, and signing autographs. Parked nearby was Roger's car, a red Porsche Carrera GT, a rare and savage supercar built for the track, not the street. Someone suggested a quick spin around the block. It was the kind of thing they did all the time. Paul told a friend he would be back in a few minutes and climbed into the passenger seat while Roger took the wheel. There was no drinking, no recklessness that anyone would have recognized. Just 2 car guys, a beautiful machine, and a short drive on a quiet Saturday. Roger pulled out of the car park and onto the road. The Carrera GT has more than 600 horsepower and a reputation as one of the hardest cars in the world to control. On an empty industrial street, with the afternoon light low and gold, he opened it up. The street was called Hercules Street, a wide, empty stretch lined with trees in a business park. The speed limit was 45 miles an hour. Investigators would later determine the Porsche was traveling between 80 and 93. Near a curve in the road, Roger lost control. The car spun, left the road, and struck a concrete lamppost, then slammed sideways into 2 trees. It happened in seconds. The impact was so violent that the car tore apart and fire broke out almost at once. It was just after 3:30 in the afternoon. A friend back at the event heard the crash from streets away and knew somehow before anyone told him. People ran toward the black smoke rising over the rooftops. By the time they reached the wreck, there was nothing anyone could do. Paul Walker and Roger Rodas were both gone. 2 minutes from the toy drive, 5 minutes from a promise to be right back. The news hit the internet within hours, and the world refused to believe it. Paul Walker was a movie star who crashed cars for a living and always walked away. It had to be a hoax, or a stunt, or a sick rumor. Fans refreshed their screens waiting for a denial that never came. Then the tributes started, and they did not stop. People drove to that stretch of Hercules Street and left flowers, candles, and photographs until the guardrail disappeared beneath them. Thousands gathered. Strangers stood in the road and wept for a man they had never met. His co-stars went silent, then broke. Vin Diesel called him his brother because that is what the movies had always said, and this time it was real. For a generation that grew up watching him, it was the first time a childhood hero had simply vanished. But as the grief settled, one question hung over all of it. How does this happen to a man who knew cars better than almost anyone alive? The answer took months. The Los Angeles County Sheriff and the California Highway Patrol pulled the wreck apart and ran every test. Porsche's own engineers examined the brakes, the steering, the throttle, the suspension. They found no fault. The car did exactly what it was told. What killed them was simple and human. Speed. On a street built for 45, at nearly double that, on tires that were 9 years old and hardened with age, there was no room for error. Roger was an experienced racer, but the Carrera GT punishes the smallest mistake without mercy. And this is the detail that stays with you. Paul Walker was not driving. He was the passenger, along for a short ride, trusting a friend behind the wheel. The man the world pictured as the ultimate driver died with his hands in his lap. If this one stays with you, subscribe to Mr. Last Day. Because even in death, Paul had one more scene left to shoot. When he died, Paul was halfway through filming Furious 7. He had shot most of his scenes, but not the ending. For a while, the film itself was in doubt. Then his two younger brothers, Caleb and Cody, stepped in. They had the same build, the same jaw, the same walk. The filmmakers used them as stand-ins and painted Paul's face over theirs with visual effects, frame by frame, so he could finish the story he started. But they made one choice that broke everyone. They refused to kill his character. Instead of a funeral, the film gives Brian a quiet goodbye. Two cars pull up side by side, then split at a fork in the road. Brian turns off into a brighter life with his family, while the others drive on. Over it plays a song written for Paul called See You Again. That scene became the most watched goodbye the internet had ever seen, more than 1 billion people saying farewell to a character and to the man who played him. Paul Walker left behind a 15-year-old daughter, Meadow. She grew up, started a foundation in his name, and at her wedding years later, Vin Diesel walked her down the aisle. The family from the movies, still keeping its promise. Paul spent his last afternoon giving to families he would never meet, then took a short ride with a friend and never came back. He was not a reckless man. He was a kind one, in a fast car, on an ordinary Saturday. The franchise he made famous was always about a single idea: that the people you choose become the people you would die for. When the two cars split at that fork in the road, the song does not say goodbye. It says, see you again. For Paul, that turned out to be the only ending anyone could bear. Not gone, just driving a different road.